And oh, you got 10 people.
Hello!
Hello, people.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome back, Owen.
That music got me pumped up.
It's been Owen's first day back. Oh no, it's the third day back after his little weekend.
First class back after I took a vacation where I drank beer on my balcony and pretended to be somewhere else.
Yeah.
It was really good. It was really, really good. But now I'm back. And I'm here to sharpen things. Mm-hmm. Welcome back, everybody. We're going to sharpen the things. This is 5 tips of sharp knives. 5 tips on sharp knives.
5
1,
tips.
2, 3, 4, and 5.
5 tips on sharp knives.
There you go.
There you go. There's your 5 tips, guys.
All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. You can find us next week. I'm just kidding. 5 tips on how to sharpen your knife properly. All right. So here we're going to cover the basics of how to get your blade from not being sharp to being sharp. Today, I'm going to sharpen one of my buddy's knives here. This is a Masakage Yuki.
Oh, very nice.
Made out of one of my favorite types of steels called Shirogami 2. This is a Shirogami knife, and you can see the really dark patina on this guy. This is a very, very well-used knife. So seeing stuff like this along the edge of your blade indicates actually pretty good care. Mm-hmm. If you start to see rust and nasty stuff like orange colors along the edge of your blade, you kind of want to get rid of that. This one's only real problem is that it does not function as a knife.
Yo, I think that's blunt.
That's blunt. We're going to change that today.
Yep. If you guys have any questions on anything that we do today, just pop it on to the chat or comment session, and I'll bring them all over to Owen to answer them.
For sure.
He's got all the answers for you guys.
Every single one.
Perfect.
Don't try and stump me. Don't mess with me.
Don't mess with Owen.
I will cry.
Yeah. Don't make him cry.
Yeah.
I've never seen him cry. Actually, make him cry. I've never seen him cry before.
I don't like where this is going. Okay. So, basics for sharpening. The basic equipment you're going to need to get a knife from being dull to sharp. Obviously, we're going to need some stones. So, considering this guy's quite dull, I'm going to start at a very low grit. So, the word grit is going to tell you how coarse or how fine your stone is. The lower the number, the coarser the stone. It's grasping around in here. There we go. So I'm going to start with our Knifewear 220 grit. This is one of my favorite stones that we carry. It's $42. It is a big slab of pink vitrified ceramic. So a lot of people ask, how long do I soak my stone for? Do I need to soak my stone? What kind of stone should and should I not soak? The answer is really, really, really simple. If your stone wants to be soaked, it'll tell you. I'll grab this guy here. This is the exact same stone that was not soaking in the water here.
We actually got a fresh bucket for you, Roll.
So wonderful.
Fresh bucket of water here. So you want to soak it in here.
So this guy, if I take my water here and I splash it onto my stone, it's gone. So you can see it.
Super fast, like a sponge, guys.
Sucks in super, super fast, right? So this is my stone telling me I want to be soaked. So if I pop it into the water.
Oh, that's bubbly.
Bubble. Yeah, you can see all the bubbles coming out. That's air rushing out of the pores of the stone and water rushing in to the pores of the stone. So we need to let this guy soak here for probably about 20 minutes or so. If, for example, I had one of these. This is a Knifewear Professional 400 grit. If I do the same thing with this guy, water just kicks it right on top there. No need to soak this guy. So you should listen to what your stones want. You should listen to what they want to do. Because if I use this guy without soaking it, I'm going to end up making a lot of horrible sounds. I'm going to start dishing out the stone really fast, and I'm going to do a very bad job sharpening my edge. I'm not going to get a consistent edge on there. With this guy, if you do soak it, the water can actually begin to break down the bonds that's keeping the stone together. It'll break down the adhesive, and it'll start to web, and it'll start to crack. It's generally not a good thing to have happen to your stone. So listen to your stone, do what it tells you.
Mm-hmm.
So give that guy a soak for a little while. Mine is pre-soaked. I'm also going to be using my very favorite stone. This is a Knifewear Pro 1000 grit. 1000 grit, a lot of people consider to be the most important stone in your set, because no matter what type of knife you're sharpening, what type of tool you're sharpening with, it's a 90% chance that you are going to be using a 1000 in there as well. It grinds steel, not nearly as fast as the very coarse stones like the 220 and the 400. It will grind steel, but it won't do like a huge amount of grinding, right? It's going to do a little bit of polishing while you work as well.
Show you a brand new one, guys. It's just like a fresh one out of the box. Like you can see. This one's been used quite a bit. We flattened it so much.
These stones actually last for a ridiculously long time. We've been using this one here at the shop for what, like a year at least?
A year and a half or so now,
yeah. So if you are sharpening as many knives as we are, which I mean, I don't know you, but you're probably not. You can expect that stone to last for just an obscenely long time. It's also a magnesium stone, meaning I don't have to soak it, which is extremely handy. And from there, I think I'm just going to finish this guy on the Knifewear 4000.
Nice.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite guys here at...
Chef Hector Sanchez says, big fan of you guys. Keep up the great business.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yes.
Thanks, Jeff.
Nice encouragement.
Yeah, buddy. Thanks a lot.
Tyler says, what up, y'all?
What's up, Ty?
How you doing?
How you living, baby?
Welcome to the stream, guys. Learn a bit about sharpening.
All right, so I'm just going to jump right into it. So first real tip, take a look at your stones, take a look at your knife, figure out what you need to do before you start to do it, right? So I tested the edge before I did anything with this knife. Whenever customers bring me their knives, I always give them, a glance at it. I always take a look and see what's going on with them. How dull is it? Is it damaged? Is it chipped? And that'll tell me sort of a lot about what I need to do. So if a customer brings me their knife and it's in relatively good condition, if they've been taking care of it and babying it, I do the paper test. If it cuts but not super well, I can think to myself, I probably don't need to go down to this 220 grit stone. It's like performing unnecessary surgery. So I started the 1K.
Okay, we have one question for you before you start there. What kind of specific knife shape do you not like sharpening?
What sort of specific knife do I not like sharpening?
Shape.
Oh, shape. Bird speaks.
Bird speaks. Yo, yeah, I
or is that the knife that has like
it's like that. Oh, karambits, all this and anything with a recurve.
Yeah,
oh my god,
anything that goes like that is a real pain.
You got a frown, no good.
Yeah. Other than that, there's not a whole lot that I really dislike sharpening. I don't like sharpening Cutcos. They just feel so weird against the stone. That's a whole different beans, though.
Let's get with the business here, Owen.
So I'm gonna hit this guy on my 220 grit stone. So tip number one, I've sort of assessed what's going on with the knife, and I can start. If you're in doubt, start at a higher grit and see what happens. Start at that 1000 and see if you're making any progress. If nothing, then bop back down to that 220. There's no harm in trying it out first. So tip number 2, set your angle. Setting your angle is super important. A lot of people place a great deal of emphasis on the exact angle at which you're sharpening your micro bevel. You don't need to go that nuts, but you definitely want to be in the right ballpark. You don't want to be sharpening at too high of an angle, like 45 degrees, because that's going to give you a really, really thick edge, and your knife isn't going to cut too well. You also don't want to be laying the knife so flat that you're scratching up the faces of the blade. You might have paid, several hundreds or thousands of dollars on a knife that has, a lot of aesthetic qualities, and you don't want to screw that up. So set your angle, get it at least in the right ballpark. Basic tips. Nickels. 20 cents worth of nickels for Japanese knives. I have a stack of 3 nickels, and then I have 1 nickel behind it here. I set the knife directly behind this, which I call the spacer nickel, which I remove, and then I lay the knife down flat. That's going to give me an approximate 15-degree angle, right? 15 degrees is typically the angle that you want to work on for most Japanese steel. If you're working with Western steel knives, you probably want to add another nickel and give that 20 cents there. So that's going to give you about a 20-degree angle. The reason that we differentiate between Western and Japanese, and there's all sorts of gray areas, there's all sorts of exceptions, but for the most part, Japanese steel is much harder. And if you have a very nice hard steel, then you can make it exceptionally thin, and it can cut really well for a really long time. If I took like a softer steel, like a Henkel's or something like that, not like there's anything wrong with that knife, but if I sharpen it at that lower angle, the steel is not hard enough to be able to maintain such a thin geometry.
Renz, you asked questions, Sharpening Pro 220 or Sharpening Glass 220? We only use the Sharpening Glass 220, so that's the recommendation I'm going to give you right now. Because that's all we tried also.
I really, really like the Sharpening Glass for a couple of reasons. One, I think that they're a really high quality ceramic in general. I think they have great feedback and they cut really fast.
Oh, yeah.
2, you're not paying for stone you might not need. They do a really high quality small piece of ceramic on the stone. So that saves you a great deal of money in the long run. They do that glass bottom to keep it from being too fragile, but they do a really thin stone because that's all you need. And so you don't need to pay a lot of money for this big honking stone.
Yeah. D-Hop asked you, how was your vacay?
That's great.
Yeah. It's fucking relaxing, eh?
I'm just so bummed to be back here, This is so impressive red room with like Francis and
I'm a terrible person. I'm excruciating.
Another great way to set your angle, we sell this product called a toe grip, and it looks like this. It's this weird little clippy apparatus. Basically, the idea of this is it clips on to the spine of your knife, just like so. And then when I lay my knife down onto my stone, it's got my angle set for me, and I can just simply start moving the knife back and forth, and it does all the work for you. This is a great tool to start learning. This is a great tool to sort of like act as training wheels, but you eventually want to graduate away from it. Because of the nature of how this works, it's very difficult to do the tip properly. So I've seen a lot of people who depend on these systems a whole lot, and they end up rounding the tips of their knives off a little bit more quickly. So use this guy as a tool to help you learn with the intention of being able to take it off at some point. Yeah.
Adam Yarborough asks us, like, what's the equivalent to that nickel there for a U.S. coin?
US nickel. Yeah, I think it's about the same thing.
Nickel to nickel?
Yeah, I think it's all.
And nickel to nickel or quarters? You know, quarters work out the same.
I think quarters are too wide for the spacer.
Okay.
I think it has to be like the right diameter and the right thickness. I can't imagine that a US nickels. I can't imagine they're that much different.
Okay.
Yeah. Or
Pennies
like
work
a
too?
5 yen piece, maybe.
Pretty sure pennies work too. Pennies are a little smaller. Yeah.
Pennies.
Yeah. You don't have pennies. Pennies.
Penny. Right. That old chestnut. If you have a iPhone like I do here, and you have the Measure app on there, which actually appears natively on your phone, there is a leveling function on it. So you zero that guy off, and then you can use this sort of as a rough guide to sort of show you what these 20-degree angles or these 15-degree angles sort of look like, right?
Hey, that's 15. Oh, that's 5. Hey, that's 15.
That's 15 right
that's
there,
15
yeah.
right there.
So obviously I would not recommend having this in your stone bucket. I know they're waterproof, but
Why not?
it's still probably not a good idea.
Yeah, probably not.
Fixed, right?
I don't think you want a wet iPhone.
Yeah.
You may want. I don't know. You are, but you know what?
If you're super utilitarian and you're very, very confident as well, this is 90 degrees. Cut that in half. 45 degrees. Cut that in half. 22 degrees. A little bit lower, 15 degrees.
Yeah.
If you want to eyeball it, I'm not a cop. You can do whatever you want. You know, it's up to you. But measure your angle, get in the right ballpark, and just get a feel for it. There you go. There's 2 tips so far. So I'm going to start a little bit of movement. Tip number 3. This is a very, very important one and a very often overlooked one. Relax. Be comfortable, right? This is a pretty simple thing that I'm going to do here, actually. When you think about it, I'm going to take a knife, I'm going to take a stone, I'm going to rub them together for a while. You don't really want to overcomplicate it too much and get in a position where you are comfortable. So I like to put, when I'm doing the right face of my knife, sort of around a 45-degree angle across the surface of the stone here. I put 3 fingers close to the edge of the knife, but not actually hanging over because I don't want to rub my poor tender fingers against the stone here. And I'm going to start some gentle back and forth movement. Notice how I sort of have my arms just kind of hanging down by my side. I've got a very comfortable posture that I can maintain for the time it takes to sharpen a bunch of knives. I don't want to wear myself out. A lot of people want to have like it perpendicular like that, but now my elbow's like way out to here. I'm finding it difficult to sort of maintain my angle. Be comfortable. Be comfortable.
Darcy Welch, what's the best way to clean a 220 grit stone?
Truing stone.
100%.
Get yourself a truing stone or a diamond plate and keep that guy nice and flat. You want your stones to be flat as possible, and in the act of truing that stone, you will clean it as well. If you're talking about like the outside of the stone, like this, like that looks clean. That is not clean. The backside, I don't bother cleaning this because I don't care.
Yeah, you don't need to.
It doesn't matter.
We only use one side, and if you keep one side the actual working surface, it's a little bit better overall when you use throughout the stone. The 220 stone that actually doesn't clog up as much. You can just use a tuning stone once in a while just to clean it off, but you don't really need to like clean it all often. It does lose its cutting power, but it takes a bit of time.
All right. So this is an important thing to learn. Feeling for burr. Feeling for burr is probably the most important. It's one of the most difficult things to sort of get down pat. So you saw I had my relaxed position. I had my fingers close to the edge, but not actually touching it. I work in little sections all the way up the knife, and I want to know if I'm doing anything, right? So there's a couple of pieces of evidence that I look for here. One, what does my stone look like? What's going on here? Look at this swarf or this slurry. That's a little bit of steel coming off of the stone. You can see it starting to turn a little bit gray. That's a good indicator that something is actually indeed empirically and physically happening. Another test is to feel for burr. So I'm going, as I push back and forth, some steel's coming up, but some steel is getting pushed around on the blade. And it's this little curl of steel that sort of pops up on one of the sides here. It's still stuck to the knife. We call that burr. Put your thumb or your finger on the face of the knife that you did not sharpen and slowly drag it across the edge. Not like this, like this. I can feel a little lip of steel beginning to appear. If I compare that to up here where I've done nothing, it feels much, much smoother. But down here, I feel almost like a little bit of a wire starting to form here. This is what we call burr. This is a good indicator that you have reached the apex of the edge, and now some steel is beginning to fold over a little bit, right? That tells me I can move into the next section of my knife. So a little bit more water on here. Don't be shy with the water, by the way. I'm going to move down to the next section, and I'm going to continue that same movement. If you feel like you need to, reset your angle. What was that, tip number 2 or 3? That was 2. Tip number 2. Yeah, that was number 2.
That was number 3.
Yeah. No, it was 2. 3 is relax.
I thought it was 3.
No. 2 is, 1 was assess the knife and figure out what stone you're going to use. 2 was,
you lost your tips.
I lost my tips.
So.
No tips for me tonight.
Okay, I don't remember either.
Yeah.
Tip number 3. That's what it is.
It's easy to feel for burr on a dry knife, so you notice me wiping it off every time I do this?
Yeah, the burr is like the hardest thing to figure out on a blade, just because like it takes a bit of your fingers getting used to it, just like flicking out the edge. But yeah, just keep on practicing. You'll eventually know what this feels like, and you'll have more of an understanding how to feel for the burr. Man, our next door neighbors are having a jam today.
Yeah, they're having a party over there tonight.
Keep it down, you damn kids. I'm trying to do a sharpening workshop. These kids over here with their beats and their music.
Okay, back to tips.
All right, so I basically got this section of my knife. I can feel burr all the way up to the tip. So the tip of the knife is actually one of the toughest parts to do because it starts to lift up. And if I'm doing the exact same movement, the knife isn't actually touching the stone at any point up here. So what I need to do is sort of angle the tip down onto the stone so that it actually makes contact. So instead of working in little sections throughout, I actually spread my fingers out over the entire tip here. And I move sort of in like a rocking kind of motion. So as I pull back, I point the tip of my knife down towards the stone. As I move forward, I flatten the blade out. Lift, flatten, lift, flatten. You might feel like this is wrong because you're pointing the tip of the knife down into the stone. You're going to feel like you're going to get gouge into it. But you actually need to lift a little bit more than you think you do to get all the way to that tip.
Yeah, it kind of feels very weird,
Yeah.
but eventually you get used to that feeling.
Feels wrong at first, but just go really nice and slow.
You can also see Owen's elbow just kind of fur up a bit as he's transitioning to that tip, and that's something you'll notice that you'll do too. It's just kind of raise that elbow up. Bada bing, bada boom.
I'm just gonna speed up a little bit here.
Yeah, you hurry up, yo.
Don't speed up a little bit, guys.
Yo, that stone is like blending in with your shirt. Your shirt's like the same color as that.
Very similar, yes.
pretty
This is my
crazy.
220 grit t-shirt.
220 grit. That's pretty rough, yo.
Yeah, my nipples are bleeding. It's terrible. Yeah. All right. So I take a look at the stone. And this doesn't really translate to the camera terribly well, but I take a look at the knife here. I take a look at the blade road that I've created. So that's the part that's touching the stone. I want it to go all the way from the tip back to the chin. I want it to all be the relative sort of same thickness, and I don't want to see a whole lot of angle changes on there. You can tell if your angle's changed by having light reflect and reflect off in all these different directions. So this looks pretty consistent.
You guys can see on both cameras here, there's a little shiny light across here. If I just kind of pivot my camera, you can see this light kind of shined across, and that's what you're really looking for, is that nice, consistent blade road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there we go. Side A done. We can flip over to side B now. So it's the exact same thing as before. Don't forget to set your angle. Whatever measuring system you were using on this side, you want to replicate completely on the other side as well, right? So I'm going to get some water on here. Again, how to measure your angle. I'd use those 3 nickels. I'd use my spacer nickel. I put my knife this time on the other side here. And then I plop this guy down there. Nice. There we go. There's our angle.
Ayo. Ayo.
So again, 3 fingers close to the edge. When I'm doing this side of the knife, I sort of keep my thumb on the spine to help stabilize it. This is also a very coarse stone, so if you do rub your fingers on here for a while, you will start to bleed, so make sure you keep your fingers off of that stone. I like to try to keep a nice path of using like most of the stone at the same time whenever I can. Because I want the stone to wear down in an even sort of fashion. We'll get into that a little bit when we talk about truing a stone, but trying to use your stone as evenly as possible is really, really, really important.
Can't see like a more overhead view of Owen.
I'll try to hold still here.
Hold still, Owen. I can't hold the camera for long. You gotta drop it on your head here.
Don't do that. I'm trying to sharpen a knife here. You'll also notice that when I'm doing this face of the knife, I held this at about a 45-degree angle across here. When I'm doing this face of the knife, it's sort of a little bit more of a 90-degree angle. Again, it's just to get comfortable. Tip number 3, get comfortable. Get calm.
Get comfy. Get comfortable. Get in. Do it. Owen.
What's up, baby?
Owen.
So tip again, I like to spread my fingers out from where the belly begins up to the tip here. And as I lift my elbow, and I drop. Lift, drop, lift, drop.
Nice smooth motions.
Take your time, go nice and slow.
Hey, since there's not, since all you guys see on Facebook right here, if you guys are on Facebook, give Owen a suggestion of what he wants to draw. Make him draw something.
Yeah, I'm gonna draw some stuff.
Give me a suggestion.
You're going to see my skills as an artist.
Yeah. You can ask him to sharpen. You can draw like a dinosaur.
I've already done dinosaur.
A dinosaur.
No repeats.
How about the Great Wave of? What's that?
The painting, the Japanese wave.
Yeah.
I'm not. Sure. Yeah, I'll give it.
You're an artist, man.
It's gonna be terrible.
You can tell him to like maybe like draw like maybe Ryu from Street Fighter.
I like that guy.
Or like Sonic the Hedgehog.
It's a tough one.
Or you can just tell him to draw maybe some headphones.
Okay. Headphones.
Anything.
Sure.
Just give us. Oh, we got a suggestion here. You got to draw me.
Francis?
Yeah, you got to draw me. You got to draw me today.
All right, so I've done both sides of the blade. So the first side that I sharpened was over here, and I felt that burr, and the burr has mysteriously disappeared, and it is now migrated over to the other side of the knife. You will never have burr on both sides of your knife, as that is impossible. So it's only going to be on one side of the knife, so don't bother checking the other side. It was already there. Now it's gone. There you go. Burr on both sides of our knives. So at this point, off that 220 grit stone, it's going to reel quick. Let's see if this does anything now. Oh, hata. Huzzahs abound. It is now kind of sharp, but sort of tearing. And if we take a look at these cuts that I'm making up really, really close here, they're a little bit fuzzy. You can see a little bit of fiber coming off of that newspaper. What I've sort of created here at this moment is a pretty serrated edge, sort of a micro serrated edge. Because the 220 is such a low grit stone, it's not going to give me a terribly tight or clean edge. It's going to sort of tear whenever you try to cut something with it. So if you wanted to give it a more practical test, take that 220 grit edge and try to slice some potato. And take a look at your slices, and you'll see that a lot of moisture starts coming out of them very quickly. Compare that to a knife that's sharpened all the way up to that 4,000 or 8,000 grit, and you'll notice those guys both feel a lot smoother and retain a lot of their moisture. It's really important to remember that the sharpness of your knife will, in fact, change the way that your food tastes. Because if you're slicing something with a much, much finer edge, it's going to retain more moisture. So think about stuff like, tuna and steaks and stuff where you want to have that moisture very much present, and you don't want it to leak out all over your plate or onto your cutting board, right? Yeah. All right, Francis, we're going to immortalize you for a moment.
Oh, snap. Yo, draw me.
Okay.
Are you done with that 220?
Oh, I'm going to do the 220.
Oh, okay. He's going to chew that down. If you have any questions about anything, let's do a little tour around the shop right now while he draws me. I'm gonna let him draw me for a second, and I'm gonna show you guys some cool stuff around the shop. Let's see what we have here. We got some cool Nigaras. We haven't got anything new, but if you guys want to take a look around while he draws me. Ooh. That's one of my favorites right now. That's pretty sexy. Pretty sexy. We got a Miyazaki too as well. Brad Bill, he asks, Do you folks ever solicit requests for subject matter to videos? Okay. I think they're using my other guy 0. How you doing?
Almost there.
Let me read this.
No.
I'm gonna read this question for a second.
Okay.
You entertain these people here. Do some funny music or something like that.
I'm drawing Francis. He's hard to draw.
Oh wow!
Just
Actually,
gonna
you filled the whole
have
space there.
circles for hands. There you go. There we go. There's Francis.
Wedding.
That's real good. That's good stuff right there, Owen. There you go. Hey, Fran.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
it's pretty good, eh? Yeah. Some lines in here. So,
Yo, why do I look so skinny? Why do I have such baggy pants?
I don't know, man. I'm sorry. I'm doing my best here, okay? I do my best every single day, and this is what I get. So I'm drawing on this stone so that I can true my stone, and I can know when it's flat. Having a flat stone is extremely important, so I always recommend after every several knives, you keep that guy flat in some way. There's a couple of different tools here. This is called a truing stone. This is called a diamond plate. So these are both tools that sort of do the same thing. The truing stone is $32, or 34 bucks, and it is going to do the job for most home sharpeners. It's made out of silicon carbide. It's got these grooves in it, so moisture can flow out as I'm truing my stone. Basically, what you want to do is work in little ovals. So this drawing here is sort of going to show me the higher spots of my stone versus the lower spots of my stone. As it begins to wear away,
Brad Bill has a question here. He says he's been wanting to sharpen his Masakage Zero Nikiri for a while, where he's getting to the point where this honing rod doesn't quite work anymore. Yeah, at some point, you know, like the honing rod is not gonna really work anymore. How about we do a special request next week? We'll do Nikiri sharpening next week.
let's do Nikiri.
Yeah.
Nikiris are actually pretty
We'll
easy.
show you guys how to do the Nikiri. This is actually one of the easier knives to sharpen, honestly, which is pretty easy to do because it's such a flat surface to it. But yeah, we'll show you next week there, Brad.
So this is actually a pretty good indicator that my stone is already quite flat. As we can see, Francis and the line starting to fade away at sort of an even rate, right? That is telling me that my stone was already pretty level when I started. So I'm just going to keep going until he's totally gone, because that is going to mean that my stone is totally flat. I'm actually going to use my diamond plate here. This is what I prefer using in store. It's 150 bucks for one of these guys, but they are way flatter and they cut way faster. So this is like the ultimate tool for truing your stones if you want to be a complete and utter knife nerd like we are.
AJ asks, do you like carbon knives that are stainless clad or ironclad?
I like both, honestly.
You can't really choose between the two. It's hard.
I mean, obviously, stainless ones are a little bit easier to take care of. If you are buying a knife and you really want it to sort of maintain that look, that sort of clean all of its features throughout its life, then you should get one that's cladded in stainless steel. I liked carbon and steel because I do like how they change. I like they develop personality. They're also easier to sharpen in the long run, I find. So real quick there, you might have noticed me doing some sort of corner work. I like to bevel off the edges of my stones here. Give me a nice working surface that's a little bit easier to work on. It's also going to, you know, if I catch my finger on the edge of the stone there, it's not going to hurt nearly as much.
Yeah. Bowtie Zombie. Yeah, we're going to try to get a steady cam sometime soon. You know, I'll show you my little setup here. It's just kind of wild. I got to do this kind of setup because in order for us to stream properly, I got to do it with an iPad. It's pretty big and notches right now. And I got my phone on the other side. So I try to keep it as steady as possible and kind of get it before I just drop it. What is the best Masakage Nikiri, Owen? What's the best? What's the best Masakage
Probably
Nikiri?
the Zero, right?
Probably the Zero?
Yeah, it's Keshi Sage. He's one of the best blacksmiths in the world. I really do
Absolutely.
like the Kumo.
Kumos are very nice.
Kumos are dope. Koishis are really dope. Yukis are really good. Shimos are awesome, as long as you're okay with taking care of an extremely fussy knife. I like the Kiri line just fine too. Really depends on what you want. If you want really good bang for your buck, I would probably suggest the Yuki or the Koishi. If you want something that's just hands down batshit crazy, you get the Zero.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's very personal. Like personally, I think I like the Yuki a bit better because I'm a big fan of white steel. But Owen loves the blue steel.
I like blue steels a lot. Yeah, especially super blue. It's what the Koishi's made out of.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so I got my 220 out of the way. I'm going to move on to my 1000 grit now. I'm actually just going to use the Knifewear 1000. I like the stone a lot too. It's $46. Really good price point. Develops a great deal of mud, which is especially important if you are going to do something called kasumi finish when you do the polishing of the sides of your knife. But to learn more about that, you should tune into Naoto's Advanced Sharpening Nerd Power Hour tomorrow at 3 our time, 4 their time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sounds like it. Yeah. Naoto goes into all the ins and outs on natural stones and single bevels, on thinning knives, all that stuff. All of your hot rodding and stuff like that.
Yeah, a little more technical stuff.
Yeah.
This is where all the real nerds go.
So this guy, make sure if you're setting your angle, if you're unsure, measure it again, because you want to be doing the exact same angle that you were doing on that 220 grit stone. Think of the 220 sort of laying the foundation, and now we're going to put up the frame. So you definitely want your frame to match the foundation, or else your house is not going to hold up terribly well. So a 15-degree angle is what we're working at again here. Exact same as before. Fingers close to the edge of the stone, but not touching the stone. 15-degree angle, nice and relaxed back and forth strokes.
Nice sound.
Mm-hmm.
Very unique feeling. I'm just gonna sit in this chair and try to keep my camera steady for him. For my friends over by YouTube there. All right.
All right, take a few strokes on this. Yeah, feel for burr. So tip number 4, if you're having trouble feeling for burr, I can feel that starting to pop up over here. Turn the knife like so. And this is really handy when you're working, especially on very, very high grits. And I see a lot of people when they're testing the sharpness of a knife, is they'll just sort of do that and pull their finger off the edge. When I do this, when you see me do this, I'm actually feeling it for burr. So I was just sharpening this face of the knife. So theoretically, my burr should be facing that way. This side feels hella sharp. I can feel that catch as the burr is moving that way. This side, not so much. A little bit more dull because the burr is moving that way and my thumb is moving with it. So feel for that burr, however works for you. If you're having trouble with the fingertips, if you got big baseball mitt hands because you've lived a hard life in the coal mines, you can do it a little bit more sensitive area here, like on your wrist. You can feel it very clearly there.
Feel really sensitive. AJ, if you like a tall profile than the Kiri, get the Mega Nikiri. Yeah.
Mori Taka Mega Nikiri is a monster.
that thing is a monster. Let me show you how that thing looks like. That thing is significantly taller compared to the rest here. So I would say right there we got a Mega Nikiri here. That guy is pretty large compared to the other Masakages. Oh yeah. If you like Nikiris too, like we have a few other ones. We just got the we started carrying a couple of Sakai Takayuki Chinese cleavers, which are real nice too. Right over there. I feel like a really nice tall profile Nikiri. That was pretty nice there. Yeah. How are we doing there, Owen?
Great. I'm just going to go over the tip once more here. Fingers spread out from the belly to the tip. Lift, drop, lift, drop. I'm going to keep hammering this skilling because it's the part that takes a little bit more practice, right?
Yeah. You can see he's always doing the elbow thing right there. So always remember to lift it, get the tip. Tip is always the hardest part of the sharpening, but eventually you'll get it.
There we go. And flip the knife over and do the exact same thing. Measure your angle the same way you were before.
The whole process is the same. Going from a 220 to a 1000, going from one side to the other. It's mostly just a lot about consistency and steadiness, right? If I can hold this camera steady.
Do your best, man. It's the best. Never apologize for doing your best, Francis.
I didn't apologize.
Oh, I guess you didn't. That's a good credo, though.
Sweet.
All right, there's our 1000 grit. So 1000 is actually an excellent stopping point for a lot of knives. If you're sharpening primarily like Western style steel, like a Hegels or a Wusthof or like a Cutco or something like that, a 1000 grit polish does a really nice job. Your knife is going to feel very nice and sharp. But this is a Masakage Yuki, hand forged by Kato-san, made out of Shirogami. And this is a very, very hard steel, and it takes a polish really, 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 really nicely. So of course, I'm going to go the extra mile, and I'm going to make this guy feel as sharp and as bitey and as slick as possible. So I'm going to go up to my 4,000 grit here. This is the Knifewear 4K. This is an excellent, excellent value stone. This guy is $69. It is a magnesium stone. So we talked a little bit at the beginning of the class here that you don't want to soak this type of stone. So I spray some water onto this guy, stays put. Beautiful.
Yeah, you see, most higher end kind of higher grit stones generally don't need to be soaked at all. Like I've yet to find one that needs to be soaked. They just need to require a quick splash and go, and you're good to go. Owen's gonna be using this guy here. This guy's called the Nagura stone, and that's gonna be used to clean the stone. Take it away.
This is a very, very hard 600 grit stone. I pulled it out of the water. It is a vitrified thing that you want to soak for a little while before you go to town. This is like a fine-tuning knob. If your truing stone is a coarse tune, this is your fine tune. So this is what it's going to do. It's going to take an extremely fine top layer off of your stone here, and use it very carefully because it does tend to have a little bit of a suction. So always hang on to your stone while you're doing it and watch your fingers. This is going to take off a very thin top layer of that ceramic, and it's going to free up any little bits of ceramic or errant bits of steel that get stuck inside the pores of the stone.
Yeah, and the mud really helps with a nice even sharpening. It's kind of a little bit more looser, so it kind of works around the stone a bit better. So just working that mud is really nice.
Yeah, it's a common practice with natural stones to make this kind of slurry and then sharpen your knife using this slurry. Feels really nice and soft. But for my purposes, I'm actually just going to rinse it off.
Have you ever used rust razors to clean your stones?
I never have done that.
Never have done that.
Is that an option?
Yes, actually.
Yeah.
I from personal experience, yes, I do. I like back then we would take the good old Knifewear rust razor, and that's what I only had a little while back then when I couldn't find my Nagura stones, and they work perfectly fine.
Cool.
Some people who just have rust razors at home can just use that to clean their stones as well.
Good to know.
The only thing is they don't really create any mud.
No.
Right? It's just cleaning, declogging the actual grit, and then you'll be able to use it a lot easier, fast cutting.
Sort of imagine that it might wear your rust razor down pretty fast too.
Yeah, depends on how gritty your stone is. I just don't want to use it anything under 1,000 for sure.
Yeah, I'll keep in mind the Nagura stone really shouldn't be used for 1,000 and below. The Nagura stone should be used for like 2,000 and up. So here we go. This is our polishing stone. So I'm not going to remove a lot of steel. I'm not, like, you'll be able to see some slurry coming off, but it's not enough to write home about. This isn't really removing a lot of steel. What it's doing is it is polishing the edge of my knife.
Brad Bill, I actually just bought a knife for 4,000 grit. It's gratifying to hear you pros use it and like it. Thanks, guys.
It's fantastic, yeah.
Yeah, we have a newer employee here that started about a couple last year.
Oh, you know us before you know Jordan.
You know Jordan, yeah. You definitely know Jordan. He loves using the stone, actually. It's we kind of dedicated the stone to him now. He bought one himself and started using it at home. He does great practice with it. Like a lot of the staff here, when they first the first time, it's always the first one they use to polish, which is real nice.
This is cheaper, and we're not so worried about them destroying it.
Mm-hmm. This one keeps cutting in and out. Let me fix my Instagram here.
Instagram, eh? Sorry, Instagram peoples. So
Instagram.
when I'm sharpening on a higher grit stone like this, it's tougher to feel burr. Like you can still feel burr by using this sort of method here.
Uh-oh.
That's my wife.
It's your wife.
You can still feel burr by using this sort of method here. That's my wife. She forgot I have the class.
No.
She's wondering where I am.
You even told her.
Yeah. So we have that, the burr sort of going this way here, right? So it doesn't feel super sharp on that side, but it does feel very, very sharp on this side. I can also feel, as I'm working on the stone, moving back and forth here, it sort of starts to feel a little bit stickier as you develop some of that slurry, and the polished metal tends to grip onto the ceramic a little bit more easily, and it starts to grip. So when I change directions, I can almost feel a little like stop-start, like a squeaky kind of feeling.
Let me
that's a
know
good
if
indicator.
Instagram's still like coming in and out, guys.
Yeah, guys, sorry
I
about that.
will
If it is.
I will try to fix it for you guys. Steve Far. Oh, I don't know how to say that last name. Do you have any upcoming sales and events?
We are getting geared up for our spring garage sale. I don't know if you've heard of the garage sale before, but the garage sale is a super duper fun event where we basically get a whole bunch of knives from new makers, prototypes. We get in touch with some of our favorite blacksmiths and see what they're working on, some new stuff, scratch, dented, retired testers, and we load up the stores with even more knives. It's mostly nowadays right now an online sale. We'll still have a great selection in store, but all the big door crashers will be online. Hopefully for the fall garage sale, we might be able to party here again. Yeah, fingers crossed, right? We're also going to do a sale of indetermination in the summer. So stay tuned for that. We'll do something.
Can I borrow your phone?
Yeah. Want me to get into Instagram?
Yeah, I could do it. I love it. I know your password. I'm pretty sure.
There you go.
Thank you. All right. What's next here?
So I'm going to flip the knife over, and I'm going to do the same thing on a different side of the blade here.
You hear it's very quiet, guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nice, nice smooth texturing.
Right around now, I'm starting to feel that sort of grip. When I change directions, I can feel a little bit of resistance. So that's telling me I can move into the next section of the stone there, or the next section of the knife, excuse me. Love that sound.
Ooh, such a great kind of focus time right now. Adding Garbo says, I saw the coils are listed as VS1 steel.
Yes.
I thought they were SLD.
No,
Can you take any about that?
almost all other knives made by Masashi-san are SLD steel, but for the kois, he's chosen to use a material called VS1. You might know it better as SKD12. It's a semi-stainless tool steel. It does develop some nice patina. I've seen it turn some very interesting colors, but I've never actually seen it rust. It's very sharpenable. It feels really, really nice on the stones, takes on a great edge. Not a lot of blacksmiths use it though, and I'm not exactly sure why. It must be a little bit difficult to work with. That would be my assumption.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Masashi loves it. I've actually sort of gotten to talk with him about it. He says that it's got an incredible grain to it, so that when you're using it, when it starts to feel a little bit dull, it's really, really easy to get it back to sharp very, very quickly using like a hone or a straw. Yeah, lovely, lovely knives.
Is there a good source for used carbon steels to practice with? It's hard to tell if you're looking at eBay. Oh yeah, eBay's a little hard to kind of.
Yeah. Look for knives made by, it's called the Lee Valley Peasant Knife. They're pretty easy to find, and you can get them for pretty cheap. That's a good carbon steel to practice sharpening on. If you can get your hand on some old Sabatiers, those work really well as well. Or just pop onto Facebook Marketplace and look for knives and look for ones that are kind of rusty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, look for cheap ones that are kind of rusty. Some fixer-uppers, you might be able to find some on there for pretty cheap. That's a great way to practice.
Yeah, exactly. Just some scraggly looking ones.
Mm-hmm.
The scraggly the better.
Get the ugly ones that people don't want more in their house.
Rick Southern Social says, so that's water you put in the stone?
Yes.
Yep.
All of my stones, I use water to sharpen. Oil sharpening is also a thing. You can sharpen using oil, but keep in mind, if you put oil onto any of your stones, they are now oil stones forever and for always from that point forward.
Mm-hmm.
My 220 grit that I have soaking here, it has a whole lot of water trapped inside the pores of the stone. But if I leave this guy alone for long enough, that water will simply evaporate, right? Oil will not. Oil will stay in that stone forever, and if you pour water onto it, it's not going to work. So you have to use oil forever.
Open out carbon are good for inexpensive practice. Yes, they are.
That's a great idea. Yeah, I didn't even think about those. Yeah,
they're
rad. Yeah.
They're like you can get a used one for like $20. You can get a brand new one for like $35. Yeah, I know. It's so cheap. Yeah. They're great little practice tools, and you can get everybody loves them because they're super thin. You can be hard on them, and they're great like outdoor knives for sure.
Yeah, they're great knives too. Like sharpen it up and use it.
Oh, yeah, I love them.
We sell them here. They're rad.
Mm-hmm. We
All
have
right.
a couple here.
So there's my 4,000 grit polish. I'm going to put this guy on the table here. See if you can get some light to reflect off of that guy. See if you can see the edge. It might be easier if you just do it.
Let's do it. Yeah. So let's see here. Let's stand on this side here.
What you're basically looking for with any sort of polishing stone is a polish, right? You want it to be nice and shiny. You want it to be almost like a mirror along that blade road there. That's a good indicator that you've done a nice job. Polished steel feels smooth to the touch. It also feels smooth when you cut with it. So this 4,000 grit is a great intermediate stone if you're mostly doing vegetables, which is what a santoku is for. That's how I like to finish them. You could absolutely take this knife up to 8,000 grit if you wanted to, you know, slice some meat. It's going to feel a lot better with that kind of finish.
Yeah, you guys can see that nice little shine of the edge there. And get this back to Owen.
So I'm going to give this another quick little edge test just after my 4,000 grit there. That feels really nice. A nice bite. But I can still feel a little bit, very, very subtle, a little bit of chewiness. If you take a look at these cuts here, they're way cleaner than they were the first time around. Very, very, very nice and smooth lines on there. I'm just going to strop this guy up. So stropping is extremely important. If you want to get your knives and cook with them and be a good cook, then you get a ceramic rod for sure. But if you want to be a sharpener, and if you want to get your knives to the absolute best that they can possibly be, you 100% need a strop. So we sell a few different varieties. This is our most popular. It's called the paddle strop. It's got two sides, one leather, one suede, which I have then treated with something called chromium oxide. It's called a green rouge. It is used as a metal polisher. This is going to do a great job getting even more of a lively sort of mirror polish onto the edge of your knife there. So I'm going to give this guy a quick strop. So you can think of this, it's almost the same as using the stone, only you don't ever want to go edge leading. You always want to go edge trailing, right? So I'm going to do that with the same angle at which I was sharpening. Nice mechanical movement.
Do you guys have any of the Mizaki Kijaya
No.
Shibaki Alagami?
We don't have any here at the Vancouver shop. They're just in the Calgary warehouse right now. Those guys are pretty dope.
Yeah, they
we
got
don't
a
get
really
to see them at the store level a whole lot. They usually sell very, very, very quickly online. Mizaki-san is a big hotshot blacksmith who's just sort of up and coming right now. He is really good. They're very, very, very thin, very high performance blades.
Hello, Simone.
So I worked in sections for a while. Now I'm trying to do the whole blade. I tip down a little bit when I get to the tip as well. You can see I raise my arm just a little bit. And then I do the other side.
AJ asks, can we do a video on knife polishing?
Polishing, yeah. At some point for sure.
I think so, yeah. We'll do like a couple more videos back here and there.
We'll do some fun themed ones. Keep your eyes peeled.
James Dean asks us, are you using the suede side first, or do you like to use the leather first?
So I'm actually just going to use the suede on this guy. I like the way that this polishes my knives. It works really well with my technique. You can also use the leather side and achieve very, very similar results. This is just sort of my style. If you were going to go one to the other, if you don't have chromium oxide, I would go suede and then leather. If you do have chromium oxide, I would go leather and then suede. Make sense?
Yeah, it depends on the steel too. Like, in my personal matter, like sometimes I'm doing carbon steel blades. I don't want to take everything off with like the polish, like the chromium oxide. So I'll just jump directly right into a leather strop and then just end with that guy, because it has a really nice kind of toothiness to it. If you do carbon steel. So I usually like to do just straight leather if you're doing that. Yeah.
This is a very, very nice, keen, angry edge on this guy. I can feel the way that it bites into the paper. It's totally effortless. I can feel a little bit of sort of a toothiness to it, which is perfect because I just finished this on a 4,000. I didn't go all the way up to 8. Feels fantastic. There
Feels
we go.
nice, right? Usually that stropping is always that like magic number, eh?
You feel it bite into my hair follicles.
If you guys are wondering what Owen is doing, he's just using the knife and like kind of pricking the back of his hair, and it kind of catches us exactly with a little bit of a clip. Here. Sanitize that thing. Sanitize it.
Yeah. I just cut off some of my arm hair with this guy too. It is definitely sharp.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this thing's pretty sharp.
Yeah.
It's pretty sharp. Your hair is invisible. Sanitize it.
I have wispy blonde hair, okay?
Yeah. CRO on suede. Chromium oxide is also a good help to do with burr removal on some stubborn stainless steel. That is very, very true.
Absolutely true. Yeah. I guess I didn't really mention about that, but the strop also removes that very, 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 very fine burr. If I was working on a very high grit stone, and the knife is hard and the stone is hard, but so when they come together on a microscopic level, it's not actually completely touching. Think about two sort of mountain ranges coming together, and you're still getting those gaps in between. They're not reaching. This is like taking those mountain ranges and rubbing them into the valley, because this is supple and it sort of reaches into those sort of hard to reach places, and helps polish up the knife even further and get rid of that burr really well.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Stainless steel is always a little tricky. Like, you be very patient with stainless steel, especially if you're working with powder steel. The burrs sometimes are very hard to kind of remove. Do a majority of the work on the stones and then move on to the chromium oxide. And that really gets it really screaming sharp. Yeah.
So tip 5 is buy a strop.
Yeah. Strop is like the magical thing.
I'm assuming because you're watching a YouTube or Instagram or Facebook show about knife sharpening, you're kind of into this sort of thing. Yeah, get a strop. It's really, really important to have.
AJ, have you ever used strop on cork or denim?
Yep.
I've used cork before. I quite like it actually. It takes it loads up compound really nicely. I don't have cork all the time. I have it at home, but that's a different material. Denim is very popular too. It's definitely possible.
It's a little bit more rough and scratchy. It's good for like coarse stropping, I guess you could say, right?
Yeah. It has a bit of a grain to it, or kind of a porous texture, so it's gonna grab burrs really nicely. Finding U6 says, I've been using denim on wood for years.
Working for you, yeah. Hey man, that's awesome. There is a lot of different ways to strop. Clearly, we're discussing this. Like, there's a lot of different ways to get the job done, and if something works for you, go for it, man. It's awesome.
Exactly.
I've seen a lot of felt. I've seen like cork, like you said. I've seen stropping on newspaper. Just a big stack of newspaper does the job. The reason that I really prefer, and this is just me, and this is how I get the best results from my sharpening, I really like the chromium suede because it does the job of removing the burr, but it also gives me that nice polish that I'm looking for. It really makes my knife shine, and I like shiny things. I like to impress people, you know?
Shiny is good.
Yeah.
Hello, 180 design. Fighting Usyk also has another question. Cheap old strop, use the leg off my old pair of jeans, scrap 2x4 and inside and roll it out to VLA strop.
There you go, man.
Strop is very easy to make. Sometimes you can also use like a balsa wood strop too. Just like a simple piece of balsa wood that's very cheap. Like Owen said, you can use some newspaper on top of your stone. That works probably fine. There's so many different ways.
In the struggle days, in order to make my Gillette Mach 3 cartridges last longer, I would just go like that down the road.
It works perfectly fine.
It did a thing. It sort of helped. Because, Gillette Mach 3 cartridges are expensive as hell. On that note, we have a sale going on at Kent of Inglewood right now. You can get awesome safety razors, straight razors, and shavettes for 15% off. So you no longer have to be a slave to $50 packs of cartridges from Gillette.
Yeah, you guys need some straight razors or safety razors, anything. These guys are 15% off for this month here at the Kent of Inglewood. Lovely, lovely pieces. Lovely, lovely pieces.
My favorite. The Wacker Huntsman, made in Germany. That was a Swedish accent.
Oh, very nice.
If you guys are talking about strops, we also have strops available. We just got a couple in not too long ago. So these are more for like straight razors and stuff like that. But people do use them for stropping up knives. But these are a little bit fancier in terms of leather. So you maybe want to avoid that. But I use them. Works totally fine for me.
Yeah.
Nice little design. Yeah, and we have those guys on 15% off for you guys if you guys
right till the end of March, available at
like,
kentofinglewood.com.
Yeah, if you guys like a straight razor of some sort. Yeah.
What else we got going on here?
Time
we got? Oh.
9:15. Yeah, you were pretty good actually. We're pretty good.
Guys, if you got any more questions, go ahead and shout them on out. But you can always get a hold of us outside of here. You can reach myself or Francis at Owen or Francis respectively at knifewear.com. For general inquiries, you can contact hello@knifewear.com. We have operators standing by. You can also check us out at knifewear.com if you just want to browse, take a look at our goodies. There's a little window that'll pop up and say, hey, this is Ellie or whatever. Is there anything we can help you with? If you type something in there, you will get a person. We'll respond to you for sure. If you're watching us on YouTube, thanks a lot. If you're not watching us on YouTube, head over to YouTube and don't forget to follow our channel and subscribe. We have a ton of great content, new videos added really frequently. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and on Facebook as well. Yeah.
Perfect. Let's answer another question here. Yeah, follow us on Instagram, guys. It's TG is rolled leather the best for stropping?
TG rolled leather?
I'm
I'm not familiar with that specific type. I think if I were to pick a type of leather that's best for stropping, I'm not familiar with that one, but cordovan. Cordovan leather is generally the most supple and softest leather. It has an excellent protein structure. It's not actually made out of the hide of the horse. It's like a membrane. It's very, very, very soft.
Yeah.
You can get a straight razor strop made out of cordovan for about $400.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the cheapest thing, but it's also very, very, very good. No, if you want the best, that's the best.
You can also use what we used to use back then was Latigo leather.
Latigo,
Latigo work really well.
Ones,
You can use veg tan leathers or something. You can
I like
also
a nice thick veg tan leather. Does a really good job.
Yeah, something that you can really take care of once in a while. James Dean says, "Thanks. I missed the beginning. I'll circle back and watch the whole thing." Yeah, you can watch the entire video on YouTube now, I believe, and
don't
Facebook.
forget, we're doing it next week too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we're always here. If you guys have any special requests for anything, we can.
Yeah, shout us out. Like we're totally game for doing special classes, theme classes. We're probably gonna do about once a month. So if you have any suggestions, fire them out to us. We're more than happy to come to you guys.
Yeah, exactly. I think next week we'll do Nakiri sharpening for Buddy there.
We're gonna do Nakiri sharpening next week. We don't do that terribly often. It's easy, don't worry.
Tim Champ is here. He's ready for a stream now. Welcome, Tim. Glad you could join.
Let's do it again.
Let's do it again. Another hour. You had a good time, buddy. Good a good time.
Oh, we good?
Oh yeah, we're pretty good. Yeah, let's end it from here.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Say bye.
We'll see you next week.
Say bye.
Bye.
Say bye again.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
We'll do one more bye.
Bye.
See you later.
Bye.
Take care, guys.
Take care.
Later.
So long.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, that's enough.